All right, so I've gotten a lot of questions from media buyers and agency owners under my most recent video where I shared my personal experiences using big caps to try and get past 150,000 USD in ad spend a month. We did hit that run rate, so we did hit between 5,000 and 7,000 USD per day in ad spend, maybe even touched 8,000. But we ended that month at 130,000 USD in ad spend. And today I'm going to show you the entire setup. So I'm going to share the strategy and the setup, and then I'm going to walk you through the ad accounts, the results, and that way you can apply it yourself. Lastly, what I'm going to do is I'm also going to discuss some of the mindsets you need to adopt or character traits to really make this work for you. So let's dive in. So the structure of a creative testing bid cap campaign is extremely simple. I use 10 ads per ad set, and I set the bid cap of that ad set at the cost per conversion I want to get within Facebook. Now, the bid cap I set to the target cost per conversion I like to see on the front end of Facebook. Now, it is important to understand that the bid cap is designed to spend your ad dollar on the ad with the highest ROI, right? So it doesn't care whether that ad is ugly, beautiful, new, or ancient within the ad account. This is why when you're creative testing, you should run your new creatives against your current winner. And I got that from Andrew Ferris, amazing person and great knowledge. So thank you to Andrew Ferris. And you really need to adopt that. Now I'll show you how that works on the back end and what kind of results you can get, and how do you rotate new winners when you have old winners, blah blah blah. But it's important that you adopt this as well. So when you have new creatives, launch them against your current winner. What ends up happening is that your new creatives have to fight your current winner, and then Facebook determines, all right, based on all the data that they have, what ad will generate the highest ROI, and whether that's the current winner or whether that those are your new ads, Facebook doesn't care. But what happens for you is that the ad dollar goes to the ad with the best ROI, which in essence is always what you want. You should not care whether the ad is new or old. You should only care that the ad dollar gets spent on the ad with the highest ROI. And that's why we do this. All right, so let's go over some results. This ad account spent 103,000 USD in March, and the top spending campaign was a creative big cap testing campaign that spent 20,000 USD. Now that campaign had the highest spend, but it also had a below average cost per purchase. That is one of the reasons to actually use big caps campaigns for creative testing, because you can test creatives with a lot more efficiency, right? So if you compare that to an auto spend campaign, then with an auto spend campaign, you always force budget to your losers, and it's a lot more inefficient. Whereas if you use a big cap campaign and you launch your new creatives against your current winner, what you'll find is that the losers almost get no spend, while your winners do get spend, and the campaign is just a lot more profitable, and even at highest skill, if you have the right winning ads. Lastly, besides just saving you a lot of money in inefficiencies and forcing ad dollars to ads that aren't really profitable or don't really stand a chance, it also saves you a lot of ad account management time, right? So instead of you being in the ad account, turning off bleeders. You can just set it and forget it and focus on creative output, which generates more results for you than when you were in the ad account actually analyzing the ads and turning off ads. Like, it's way better to focus your time on creating more winners. Now, let's look at the ad set level. What you can see is that this campaign has 24 different ad sets. Some ad sets get more spent than others. That's because they have different creatives in them. What you see is that the average cost per purchase is 102 Brazilian real in this ad account, which is about 20 USD, with 991 purchases. Now, let's look at the bid cap strategy. What you see is that the bid cap is set to 105 per conversion. This is very, very close to the end result that we got, which is 102 real per purchase, with 991 conversions. So the actual outcome of the campaign was lower than the bid cap that I set. Another thing that is worth noting is that all these ads were roughly launched around the same dates. So between a 1 and 2 day window. So between those 2 days, I launched 201 ads to be precise. All of these new creatives were launched against my current winner. I did not care about the headline or the copy. All I was focused on was the biggest lever, which is creative. So that's the only variable in this setup. What you can also see is that I have somewhat of naming conventions in these ad sets, and I'm actually counting upwards. So you can see that I have like 7th, 8th, 9th. And the reason that I have those is because I'm counting my batches of 10, right? So if I have 201 ads, I should have around 20 ad sets, right? So that's what I'm counting. I'm counting the batches of 10 that I've launched. Now, on the ad level, you can see that I launched 201 ads. These are not perfect batches of 10. So sometimes you have an ad set that has 3 ads, 4 ads, 7 ads. These things do not matter. Don't major in the minor. Just follow the basic principles, and then you're good to go. What you can see from this breakdown is that there's one ad that has most of the spend, right? And that is the current winner at that time. Now, this is a very good thing, in my opinion, right? Because we spent 103,000 USD below our target purchase. So obviously something's working. But the reason why it's also beautiful is because that means that all the spend is going to the highest ROI across different ad sets. Now, if I find a new winner, which happens every so often, but a couple of times a month, I would say, what I do is I take that new winner and I paste it into my other ad sets that are slowly fatiguing. Because what you'll find is, sure, this is now my current winner, but I'm going to show you in a bit that in a month from then, I have a totally different ad that's getting all the spend, right? So an ad fatigues at this ad spend. So even though it's now a winner, I know that it's no problem that it's getting all the spend, because as soon as that one starts to fatigue, Facebook's like, hold on, this is not the highest ROI ad anymore. Let me try another one, right? And when you paste in your new winners, that new winner will likely get all the spend. So that's one of the beautiful things. Your ad dollars get spent on the highest ROI ad, in theory and in practice. Now, let me show you another ad account from the same client where we actually do all the current creative testing. You can see that as a result from more creative testing, the cost per purchase in this ad account is actually 84 instead of 104 in the other ad account that I showed you. On the ad set level, everything is the same, right? So we have 10 ads per ad set whenever we test new creatives, but there's one difference. So the bid cap is tighter. Instead of 105, the bid cap is set to 90. You can see that again, the cost per purchase in reality is lower than the bid cap that I have set. So the bid cap is actually 76, which is a lot lower than the 90 where the bid cap is set at. And that's because we do a lot more creative testing and the creatives are just that much better. Now, when we look at the ad level, you can see that there are new creatives or other creatives than the other ad account that I showed you that are getting all the spend and all the purchase. Now, it's important for you to know that these ad sets also contain that original winner that I showed you in the other ad account. But that original winner is fatigued, right? So it has a cost per purchase of 102, whereas these new creatives are a lot better because they're fresh, they're new, good ideas. And so the original ad doesn't get spent, but the new creatives with a better cost per purchase, they do get spent. But it's important for you to know that both of them are in a lot of these ad sets, but the old winner just gets neglected because it doesn't generate a good cost per purchase anymore, as it is fatigued. You may wonder, all right, why are you spending money on the original winner if it doesn't really work? It's a great question. We don't actually that much anymore because we're downsizing the ad spend to get some cash reserves build up, get some LTV in. But the main reason is that a 105 cost per purchase, or 102 in reality then, still is good enough for us to spend on it. So if we're below KPI, then I don't really care. And we can spend on whatever ad as long as we get more volume through, right? Because that is ideally the goal. Even if my target is 110 and I have a couple of ads doing it fine at 105 and a couple of ads doing fine at 80, then by having them all on, I can get more total volume of ad spend and more total volume of purchase through than just focusing or trying to get all the spend behind one particular ad, right? Because one particular ad only has X amount of potential, right? There's a ceiling to every ad. So the more ads you have working, the more you can spend. Because I'm showing this on relatively high spend ad accounts, you might think, all right, but that doesn't work for me. We don't have the creative output or input, and yeah, there's just not enough spend. This might work on high spend ad accounts, but it doesn't work for me. That is a myth, and I'm going to show you the opposite, and that it's actually also a very good strategy if you have nothing that works for your business on a relatively fresh ad account, right? So I'm going to show it on an ad account where we had 0 winning evergreen ads. So this is for an apparel brand. We did have like seasonal things that worked, for example, a new drop, but we didn't have consistent winners in the ad account. All right, so I'm going to show you how we use this strategy to find those winners. Because we had nothing working within the ad account, I couldn't really correlate what type of creatives I wanted to request from the brand itself. So what I decided to do was, all right, let me just go for sheer volume. So I went into their assets, requested assets for their top selling item, clothing item, and I grabbed all the creatives that I could find. So I had 190 images of one product design and grabbed those. Didn't really matter if it was product on Y, a lifestyle photo, close-up photo, photo in the gym, just the product in the gym without it being on a model. Like, I just grabbed everything that they had and I thought was reasonably okay looking, and I just launched it using this strategy. Now, let's go over some of those results. Again, it's really important to emphasize that I did not test headline or body copy, right? Because those are low levers and they take a lot of time. So it's important to go for efficiency at the early stages and just focus on the biggest lever, which is the creative. And that's why I grabbed 190 creatives. But all of those 190 ads had the same body copy, the same destination URL, and the same headline. Another benefit to that, besides speed and efficiency, is also that there's only one variable, so I can compare the results really well to each other. The first 14 days, I only got 16 purchases with about a 30 cost per purchase. Those are quite bad results, especially when taking into consideration that my bid cap was set to 18. All right, so I was almost double my bid cap. Now, I've seen people comment on my most recent video where they're like, hey, I set a bid cap and the results are way above my bid cap. Should I turn the adset off? What's happening? Am I doing something wrong? What's happening is that Facebook expects and predicts, right, to get you a cost per conversion where you set the bid cap. But it is not a magician, right? So it predicts based on a lot of data that they process that it can generate a purchase at £18, right? So it spends. Now, it's actually a good thing that it spends because it means it expects to get a conversion there. But it doesn't mean that across 19 different ad sets, Facebook can always generate a purchase within the bid cap, right? So you need to give Facebook a bit of wiggle room to find out and experiment with your ads. What you don't want to do is panic and blame Facebook, right? So what I did when I saw these results, right? When I saw results above my bid cap, I knew from personal experience and the experiences of others that big caps work. So I took ownership and I said, all right, if bid caps work, then that means my ads don't work, and what I have given Facebook is just complete horseshit, and I need to do more work. And that's the mindset that you want to adopt. It's not Facebook's fault, it's your fault, right? You're not giving the right ads to Facebook, but the systems work. What I did was I analyzed the ads that actually got purchases, add to carts, and initiate checkouts. And what I found was that there were commonalities between those ads. So it was a close-up shot, right, of the chest of that person with the logo slightly on it, on an on-model shot. So I realized that, and I requested more content like it from the business owner, right? So I sent the creators, said, all right, this looks to be working. Let's try and do more of that and take it from there, right? No, it's not that impressive. It's really simple. And that's what you'll find is like most of this stuff is really simple, but you just have to do it. So I just sent him pictures of what seemed to be working and requested more of it, right? You can see that those ads that I launched on the 18th of March, which is actually a month later, those started to get some traction. 2 weeks after that, things started to snowball, and I got 160 purchases at £12.40. 2 weeks after that, I got 50 purchases at £23. Looking at the lifetime of that campaign so far, we have 244 purchases at roughly £16, where the bid cap was £18. So although we had a rough start, where in the first 14 days we only had like a handful of purchases, by just sticking to the process and saying, hey, my bid cap setup is good, this works, but the ads don't work. That's how I found the solution, right? By just sticking to the process and giving Facebook more assets that are likely to work. And even if you don't know what works, just go for sheer volume. What I specifically need to work on with this brand is getting their creative volume up, right? Because we're not meeting the threshold that's necessary for them to really thrive within the ads manager. Whereas if I look at the business that I help and we're spending $130,000 a month, we can actually invest more in creative output, and I can request more creatives and get it done. Whereas smaller brands tend to be more focused on other stuff, right? They're not really focused on creative output. They're busy. They don't make it a priority. And yeah, that gets in the way of getting more results on Facebook. So if you want more results, focus on creative output. I'm not saying that it needs to be expensive. I'm just saying it needs to be your focus. Now, to make this into a principle or guiding sentence or whatever you want to call it, it is really simple to scale an ad account. You find out what works and you do more of the things that work. It's that simple. Now, I have other examples too, but this needs to be enough for you to work off of, right? Because I showed it in 2 relatively high spend ad accounts, and then also one ad account where we had virtually no ad spend because we didn't have any winners, right? So this needs to be enough for you to find a solution within your own ad account. So let's talk about the character traits you need to adopt to make this work in whatever ad account you have. There are a couple of reasons why these big caps aren't working, right? You're not testing enough creatives. Your offer is not competitive enough. Your funnel is bad, or your big caps are simply unrealistic and you're forcing Facebook to do something that is without the realm of possibilities, right? You're just fantasizing about a CPA and getting your business off the ground, but you're not realizing what it might take for you to win and the margins that you actually need in the funnel. And you're just expecting Facebook to do something magical, which is also not possible, right? But whatever the reason or the cause may be, you need to own up that big caps do work, but your setup doesn't work. Secondly, if you want this strategy to work, you need to adopt the belief of principle over exception, right? Because I see a lot of new media buyers or smaller spend media buyers focusing on the exception. So they see that their ads that they have put into the big cap, that they are not getting spent. So they start thinking, why is it not getting spent? I thought these were awesome. These are definitely winners. What's happening, right? How can I make a decision if they're not getting spent? And they start getting the urge to do things to prove to themselves that these ads have potential, or they start doubting Facebook, which is common, right? As I said, from personal experience, I also didn't believe that big caps worked, or I had very bad experiences with cost control. But you need to adopt principle over exception. So the principle is, if you put a lot of creatives in big cap ads, big cap ad sets, then the winners will emerge, right? And the cool thing is that you can launch 100 different ads, 200 different ads, 500 different ads. So there's a lot more efficiency and a lot more skill. And also, the ads that aren't winners don't get spent, and the ads that are winners will get spent. Whereas if you try to take control over the creative testing process, then you need to give every ad a certain amount of spend before you turn it off. So there's a lot more analysis involved. There's a lot more guessing involved, because you're looking at the ad set, you're thinking, well, it's just slightly over my target CPA, so do I turn it off? Do I not turn it off? Shall I give it a little more spend? This was actually my favorite creative, so I think I should probably give it more spend. Whereas with bid caps, if you test enough volume, you will get a result that's beneath your bid cap, right? I showed you on 3 different ad accounts that within every scenario on the lifetime of that campaign, the bid cap was lower, the result was lower than the bid cap, right? So principle over exception, right? That's a very important one. You need to trust Facebook rather than your own judgment. Now, does that mean that if you find that a bid cap doesn't spend and you put the ads into an ad set that has auto spend and you might find a new winner? Of course, that can happen, right? There is a reality that happens. But is that worth your time and effort, right? Because the benefit of those bid caps is that you can test 100 different creatives very fast. You don't have to check on them. You don't have to do anything with them. And you find winners, right? So instead of being in the ad account tinkering with auto bids, what you can actually do is take that time that you have saved by just using bid caps and request more creatives. Make a new landing page, whatever. You have way more free time, right? So you can do a lot more important stuff than being in the ad account, right? You can just give that role to the bid cap. Let them decide. Let Facebook decide and go do important shit, right? Lastly, you need to adopt the belief of volume over excuses. Now, this is how many ads it took to get to certain spends, right? So 300,000 a month took me 520 unique videos. 144,000 a month took me 483 ads. And 128,000 a month took me 306 ads to test, right? Now, whenever I confront my clients with this, they're kind of flabbergasted at first. They think, well, why is it that many? And I'm specifically talking about clients that are at lower spends. If you talk with clients that are spending 100,000 or 200,000 or 300,000 or more, they understand. Like, they know that it's a volume game. But the ones that are stuck below, they get into the mindset of current, right? So they say, well, our current creative output is not nearly close enough to that. Like, we can't do that. We're too busy. And hey, that's fine. Like, if you don't want to spend more on ads and, I don't know, don't scale your business as fast as you could, then hey, I mean, it's your business. You don't have to do anything, right? But if you want more spend, then these are the guiding principles, is you need more volume. And I know I say volume over excuses because saying that you don't have the money or you don't have the time or you don't have the focus, to someone that's radically effective, those things just sound as excuses, right? So if you want more spend, you need to make time. You need to get focused, right? You need to make sure that you do make investments into creative output, because it's not a cost, it's an investment. Now, that doesn't mean you need to throw money at it. You still need to be wise, right? Use some common sense, but it does mean that you need to make changes. If your current output is not this, don't expect to spend this. To summarize, you need to see the difference between an expense and an investment, right? So time spent on creative output is not an expense, it's an investment, right? Money put into creatives is not an expense, it is an investment, right? So if you have very lofty goals, you need to make lofty investments in terms of time, focus, and of course, currency. All right, so do more of what works.